Hello and welcome to Mysteries of Science. My name's Michael and I'm the acting deputy editor of Science and Nature, the monthly magazine from the team behind The Week Junior.
And I'm Jenny, the features editor. On this podcast, we explore the strange phenomena and bizarre events that have left scientists scratching their heads and, despite their best efforts, remain well and truly unsolved.
Today we're roaming the English countryside, Exmoor to be exact, which is in Somerset and Devon.
Yes, but we're not here just on a leisurely walk. We're investigating reports of a large creature with dark fur, which has been spotted around these parts. Possibly a black panther, a puma, or something else entirely.
Yes, many people claim to have spotted the so-called Beast of Exmoor, even though photo and video evidence of the creature has never proved it.
Well, Michael, perhaps we can solve this case once and for all.
Say, Jenny, what's that over there?
Where?
There!
We'd better go take a look.
This is Mysteries of Science.
So, Michael, the Beast of Exmoor, where do we start?
Well, as most people seem to think that the beast is a big cat of some sort, who better to speak to than a big cat expert?
Hi, I'm Rick Minter. I'm a podcaster and I produce a podcast called Big Cat Conversations. And every 2 or 3 weeks we hear at least one witness who's encountered a big cat in Britain, different parts of Britain. And we analyse that, discuss it, and we compare it with lots of other reports. I've also written a book on the subject. And before that, I was a policy officer, policy analyst for a government agency to do with wildlife and the countryside. So I've moved from that to big cats in my early retirement.
Welcome to the show, Rick. So tell us, what got you interested in big cats?
It did all start from seeing one. Before I saw one, I really hadn't got a view on it. I'd really never given the matter any thought, even though back 20 odd years ago then, there were reports in the newspapers occasionally, and we didn't have websites then really, but I hadn't really, the subject just passed me by. But seeing one and thinking it was a dog initially, and then realising, no, that actually just has to be a black panther at home in the Lake District countryside, and I had long enough to analyse it. That sort of spurred my interest. It nagged away, and I eventually, a few years later, did a book on the subject. And despite my dad encouraging me not to, he thought it was not good for my status and my professional life to get interested in a weird and unusual and wacky subject. But I couldn't really resist, and when I left my government policy job, I had more freedom, of course, as an independent person.
So it was a big cat sighting in the Lake District that made you want to investigate this further. But what about Exmoor? What have you learnt about big cat sightings there?
Yeah, well, it's interesting we have this sort of brand and this ongoing sort of legend of the Beast of Exmoor, because there are other ones around the country. And in a way, it's now just become the Beast of Britain and the theory of Britain's big cats. But certainly Exmoor, it still has credible reports now. You know, I know landowners and different people in Exmoor and people who are national park rangers and all kinds of people there. And through the grapevine, they tell me about big reports of big cat reports going on there now. And when I do my rural stand show there, I take a sort of tent, an information tent to rural shows, and I've done four in a row in past years just before COVID in the Exmoor area. And they were busy all day with people who were just curious or knew about gossip of big cats, or who had seen them and encountered them and wanted to report them. So it's an ongoing area of big cats, alleged big cat sightings.
So we have people today claiming to have seen the Beast of Exmoor, but just how far back do these stories and sightings go?
My first report there was from 1966. It was a lady came to one of my rural show stands there, and she said, yeah, my grandfather saw one in 1966. He was a postman, and the neighbouring postman saw one on his round as well in a very rural area at first light of day, where sorts of times when people see them. So from 1966, you know, we've had reports to me of ongoing sightings in Exmoor and elsewhere still going on. So it does seem that they are breeding, and we get reports of mothers and cubs, and that's the interesting thing, that they seem to be naturalising and confident and stealthy and existing fine in the British landscape.
So if we're going from the 1960s all the way to the present day, and Rick mentioning mothers and cubs, the Beast of Exmoor can't just be one creature, can it? It must be several.
That's right, we're talking about several cats and in several places across the UK. This mystery goes way beyond Exmoor.
So just how widespread are they?
If I think of reports to me in the last month or so, well, I've had them from up near John O'Groats in the north-east tip of Scotland. I've had some from Kent. I've had some from Gloucestershire, where I am, some from Shropshire, some from the southwest of England, Devon, so all around the British Isles, and that would be a common pattern, really. And I feel that 90% of those reports, to me, are credible. I think they're not people mistaken. They're not people trying to fake examples and get attention to themselves. They really are consistent.
Wow, so they really are all over the place then. If only somebody had a map of the big cats of Britain.
Well, it's funny you should say that, Jenny, because I know an artist who has done just that and put it on a tea towel.
Hello, my name's Anna Walsh and I'm an artist. I'm based in London, in southeast London, and a lot of my work uses animals in it.
Hi Anna, thanks for joining us. So this Big Cats of Britain tea towel, how did it come about?
Well, I think the initial inspiration came because the art collective I'm part of, Rue des Studiages, we made a tea towel. It's sort of like a spoof souvenir tea towel on the wildlife of London, where we depicted sort of more urban wildlife like foxes, three-legged foxes, pigeons, rats, that kind of thing. And our distributor asked if we could do something that was a bit more UK-based rather than being so London-centric. So I was trying to come up with an idea that was kind of similar, still had a bit of sense of humour, but could appeal to people across the UK. And I think at the time there was one of those big cat mystery stories doing the rounds. It was quite a few years ago now, so I think it was the Essex lion. So that kind of captured my imagination a bit, and I began to do a bit more research into all these big cat sightings. And so that's kind of how it came about.
And for our listeners who can't see it for themselves, paint a picture for us. What does it look like?
So it's a picture of a map of the UK. Well, not including Northern Ireland, I can say that. And it shows, it's just got images of that I've drawn of the big cats that have been sighted at various times over the, past few decades, really.
So tell us about some of these big cat sightings then, Anna. Which ones, other than the Beast of Exmoor, should we know about?
In the 1960s, there was quite a lot of sightings in Surrey, and it became known as the Puma Pandemonium because there were so many sightings around that area. So the one I chose to put on my map was one that was spotted in 1963 in Shooters Hill, where a cheetah, or alleged cheetah, I can't remember if that one was ever proved or not, was spotted, and it jumped over a police car. So that one must have been quite a sight. So that's the one of the puma, the Surrey ones that appeared on my map, and also Palace Puma and Beastus Sydenham. Again, lots of various sightings of them. So some of them have been proved, some of them not proved.
Puma Pandemonium, I love it. So what are some of your other favourite big cats?
I quite like the ones that are just completely random and not proved. Like there's one in Nottingham as well. The lioness was allegedly spotted in 1976, and there was a lot of alleged sightings, and I think it was maybe 65 supposed sightings of it, and the police got involved, and some of them were tracked and some they turned out to be a dog, and there was even one of the spottings which turned out to be a plastic bag. So those are the kind of stories that kind of appeal to my sense of humour, and so the ones that are a bit random. And then another one in Wales, South Wales, 2005, I think it was. A photo of what looked like a black puma, and the Big Cat Society decided 100% that it was a photo of a cuddly toy. So that was another funny story.
A plastic bag and a cuddly toy. It seems like some of these big cat sightings are just people's imaginations running away with them.
Well, it certainly is a topic that seems to have captured the public's imagination, that's for sure. Why do you think that is, Anna? Why are we so interested in big cats?
We live in a fairly sedate country in the wilds. We don't really see too many wild animals, certainly not ferocious ones like lions and tigers. So I think that the thought of maybe bumping into a tiger or a lion when you're out for your walk in the woods maybe adds a bit of excitement to our day, something that we're fairly unlikely to experience in this country.
And have you ever seen a big cat yourself, Anna?
Oh, sadly not. I would love to see that. I do like the Essex lion, the one I mentioned before, that was turned out to be someone's cat, Maine Coon cat, which if you've ever seen a Maine Coon cat is a very large cat. So I think it's fair enough if you spot that out in the wild. It could be a slightly scary sight. But yeah, I'd love to spot one in the wild. That'd be amazing.
Okay, so we know that there have been sightings of a big cat in Exmoor, and we know they're not the only ones. Now, some of them, as Anna said, have just been house cats, cuddly toys or plastic bags. But others, like Rick said, have been credible.
That's right.
But there's one huge question that remains unanswered.
What's that, Jenny?
Well, these big cats we're talking about, they're not native to Britain, so where did they come from? And what are they doing in the British countryside?
In the 1970s, a law was brought in, Dangerous Wild Animals Act, which banned the keeping of various species on unlicensed premises. So it's thought that could be a bit of a cause of some of the sightings, that people have suddenly realised they can't keep these dangerous wild cats and have released them into the wilds of the UK countryside.
Okay, so let me get this straight. There was a law that was introduced in 1976 which basically placed greater controls on people owning wildlife in the UK. And so people think that some private collectors might have released these animals into the wild to avoid getting into trouble.
People have admitted releasing them, and other people who are now sort of years on, friends and relatives of people who did release them allegedly, have actually told tales on them and said, my grandfather did, or mine, the people next door on the estate, let these animals loose. So there's enough of that now to suggest that they were released pets, which we do imagine, that they're not native to Britain. So if they're out there, that somebody's dumped them and released them, or they've escaped, and it could have happened since the wartime. We had people had collections in war times, and when you feed these animals, they're strict carnivores, so they can only eat meat, really, and if you haven't got meat supply, you're in trouble. You can't really keep them. So they could have been let loose from wartime onwards, and if they got out at different times at different places around the country, around Britain, and they've met and bred, and that is the puzzle, that is the extraordinary claim. It's not weird that a few non-native large cats got out. It's the extraordinary thing, and the puzzle is how are they being seen today so consistently and looking like they're naturalising and breeding and confident.
So I guess that answered my question of where they might have come from, but as Rick says, how might they have survived to the present day? Now, there's a real mystery.
Okay, Jenny, I think it's time to turn to our trusty friend, the mysteryometer.
Yes, for those of you who don't know, the mysteryometer is a scale from 0 to 100, with 0 being we know nothing and 100 being case closed. We know everything there is to know, so I wonder where our guests think we are on this scale when it comes to Britain's big cats.
We'd like more and better evidence, of course, but I think we're getting there. I think it's 70% plus.
I would say, maybe in the 70s, 75. So there's a lot of fact out there, but there's always a bit of room for a bit of fiction and mystery, which I think is the appeal, especially as an artist who would like to appeal the imagination that humans use to sort of fill in the gaps of the unexplained. So, that would be my answer, I think.
Okay, so they're both agreed. 70, not bad at all, but always room for improvement. Who knows? Maybe one of our listeners will be the one to find that crucial missing piece of evidence to get us to 100.
Yes, we'd love to hear from you. Have you ever had a big cat sighting? Do you think there are other explanations for what the beast of Exmoor could be? To send us a voice note, just head to funkidslive.com/mysteries and hit the big red button. Your message could be played in a future episode.
And don't forget to join us in 2 weeks' time, where we'll be back with our next mystery.
Yes, we'll be exploring the strange and mysterious world of deepfakes as we ask, can you believe what you see? Until then, stay curious.